Hey guys, it's Bree and welcome back to another video. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing my wrap-up for the 2020 Manga Love Readathon hosted by Shay from Shaegeeksout. I really enjoyed this readathon. I honestly had a very hectic week, so I am surprised that I managed to finish my entire TBR. And on that note, let's get into the manga. So the first challenge, of course, was read a Shay fave, and for this I picked to read Fruits Basket, which is a series that I have never read before, and I decided to check out during this readathon. Now, this first volume was very good. Fruits Basket is kind of like the eternal classic shoujo that everyone recommends to each other. A lot of people really love the main character, Toru, and I can see why. She has a very fun personality. She is very resilient and she thinks really positively, and I like that. We also got introduced to Yuki and Kyo in this volume, as well as the dog guy that I can't remember the name of. I know, I'm awful. I usually don't remember character names after one volume. But I really enjoyed this first volume. I am definitely interested to continue on with Fruits Basket. Maybe when I pick up other volumes, I'll actually do a reading log. That could be very interesting, or do one big video on the entire series and my first impressions diving into it after having it recommended to me for so many years. Honestly, reading this first volume though, I could understand why everyone recommends this series. It is very fun, and just from this first volume I can see a lot of potential in it, so yeah. The next challenge was to read outside of your comfort zone, and for this challenge I picked to read One Piece, and I read this on the Shonen Jump app, so I don't actually have any volumes to show. I guess I'll put a picture here, but I read the first 40 chapters of One Piece, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was kind of a fun series. I've heard that One Piece can be a little bit harder to get into, especially when you're older, just because of the way that it's written. I feel like it is written for a younger audience, almost, just from how slapstick the humor is a lot of the time. But I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It's funny because being into manga and being into anime, you always see One Piece recommended to you, but I don't think I ever actually absorbed what One Piece was about, really, other than the fact that they're pirates and they're after the One Piece. So I didn't actually know that Luffy had powers or anything, or that a whole bunch of different characters had powers. But yeah, I don't know. I read the first 40 chapters. I enjoyed it. I might continue with it. I'm not too sure yet. There are other things on the Shonen Jump app I also want to read, and committing to a series that nearly has 1,000 chapters is still hard to do. Maybe I'll check out when this arc ends and read up to that point and then decide whether or not I'll be continuing with it. For the third challenge, it was to start a new series, and the series I picked to start was Oku. Now, Oku, out of all of the manga that I read this week, was probably the hardest manga to read, just because it is a historical manga, and the way that the translators decided to translate this more old Japanese that it was originally written in was to make it Old English. So it's like reading Shakespeare when you read this series. There's a lot of Old English, and because of that, also, like, these volumes are so wordy, like compared to normal manga, it's just packed with words, like so many words on a page. And on top of that, you have to understand the whole shogun politics that happens within the inner chambers, so that was a lot of new information that it was throwing at me, and honestly, I think the first volume took me like nearly 2 hours to read. This sounds really negative, but I think that this was the best thing that I read this week for sure. Like, maybe even one of the best things that I read this month. Oku was so good. It was so interesting. A lot of the events in the story had me up at night thinking about how it would be resolved. I'm really glad that I picked up the first 3 volumes, and I cannot wait to pick up more of this series. I also definitely want to check out more of Fumi Yoshinaga. I really enjoyed all of the characters that she put into this. Oh, also this manga was way darker than I thought it was going to be, and I mean, yeah, I understand why it has the content warning at the bottom corner. Yeah. If you like historical manga, definitely recommend Oku. It is a good time. Challenge number 4 was to finish a series, and the series that I picked to finish was The Seven Princes of the Thousand Year Labyrinth. I was considering reading volumes 1 and 2. I didn't end up reading them. I just decided to wing it and read volumes 3 and 4. I'm like, whatever. There's a description at the beginning of this volume. I'm sure I will catch up to where I was. And yeah, it was fine. This series is kind of like a mystery stuck in a labyrinth series. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It had a very interesting character introduced in these last 2 volumes that really shook up all of the prior events of the other volumes. I would say it's an okay 4-volume series. If you're considering buying it, I would say maybe hold off and get it from the library and decide from there, because I can maybe see myself selling this series in the future. I definitely did not like fall in love with it. The art, of course, is gorgeous. It's just that the story was a little bit weak. Challenge number 5 was to read a recommendation. And for this, I picked to read The Drifting Classroom by Kazuo Umes. This first volume was so good. I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. I bought the other 2 volumes and they are just currently at my boyfriend's house, so I can't read them. But love this first volume. It is a classic horror series from the 70s. It reads like a 70s manga for sure. Like, it is very dated in its style. It is very rigid in its panel layout, much more so than newer manga, but I don't think the story suffers from it at all. I also like that it uses a lot of themes that were really common back in the 70s, like psychic connections, really. That kind of stuff. The horror elements were really well done. It's just, the story centers on kids. So imagining these kids going through all of these different horrifying scenarios, it just fills you with so much dread, but you also want to know how this series ends. I can't imagine this series ending well, like well off for the kids, so, but I am very interested to know like how it ends, and interested to see what else will be thrown at these poor kids. The 6th challenge was to read a sequel or read a sequel series. I picked to read, I think that Soul Eat or Not is actually like a prequel series. I realized that it wouldn't make sense for the events that happened in these volumes to happen after the series ended. But anyways, this series is a spin-off series, so I'm gonna count it as a sequel. And I read volumes 4 and 5 of this series. I had previously read volumes 1 through 3. I really enjoyed it. I like this series. Soul Eat or Not is just like a fun, more like comedy almost. And I just like the characters in this one. I like that it is a weapon and 2 meisters as like the main trio. And the end of this series was really good. I also like the witch that was in this series. She was like a cool scorpion witch who had the ability to control people, and I'm like, that's always awesome. I like the characters. They're just happy little lesbians that I love. Challenge number 7 was to read a shoujo series, and the shoujo series that I had picked out for this was Love and Focus, specifically the 2nd and 3rd volume. This series is a 3-volume series, so reading the 2nd and 3rd volume actually finished off this series for me. This series is basically entirely about this love triangle that our main character ends up in, where she goes to a boarding house for a high school that has like a photography club because she wants to become a photographer. I guess romance ensues at the boarding house. What a classic within the shoujo genre. But I enjoyed these volumes. I enjoyed the romance. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, it's so obvious who she's gonna end up with. Like, why would you not pick him? Kind of thing. You just know in your heart that it's like not gonna be the other guy, and you just feel kind of bad for him because you're like, why are you here in this love triangle that you don't even have a chance? It was a sweet romance. There's a few twists in it that I was not expecting to happen that happened in volume 2. Overall, a good shoujo series. I enjoyed it. Challenge number 8 was to read a josei. And for this, I picked Supply. I had picked up this manga so long ago, just from either a used bookstore or from a convention. I can't really remember, but I am so happy that I picked it up. I think that this was my second favorite read after Oku that I read this week. It was just so good. It features a main character who works for an advertising company who is struggling in her love life, and you just get to follow her story, and the emotions in it, amazing. I wish that the series had been entirely published in English, but sadly they only have the first 5 volumes of this 11-volume series, which makes me question if I want to collect the other volumes, knowing that I will just never own all of it. That's like the saddest part for me. So I think I will get the other volumes, but only if I see them for really cheap, like how I saw this volume for probably, I think it was like $2. Finally, we are up to challenge number 9 of my TBR that I read this week. And challenge number 9 is to read an LGBT plus title. And for this, I picked volume 3 of A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow. I love this series. It is so good. Volume 3 definitely did not disappoint. This story features our main character, Konatsu, who moves to a small town and joins an aquarium club. And at this aquarium club, she meets an upperclassman who is this other girl, this older girl named Koyuki, I think. And it follows their budding romance. And they're both in the aquarium club, so it has a lot of fun aquarium stuff, and I don't know, it's really enjoyable. I really like this series. I just love the flavor of it, I guess. After reading this volume, I'm definitely interested to check out more Yuri titles that have come out in recent years, and I am happy to say that that is all of the books that were in my TBR. Of course, I did not only read these books this week because, I don't know, I'm crazy, I guess. I was like, that's not enough. I'm gonna read other stuff too. So there are a few other things that I read this week that will be included probably in my September manga wrap-up, so watch out for that. Overall, I really loved doing this readathon. I thought it was really fun. I liked all of the challenges. They were all pretty easy to fill, and I'm happy that I had manga that I hadn't read yet that I could use for the different challenges. Let me know if you have read any of this manga, or if you did the manga love readathon too. I would love to see your TBR and your wrap-up videos. Like, just comment down below if you have. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye!